Kieran, and welcome back to Close to Broke. It's an absolute pleasure to have you guys. We had a really hot streak of wins going there, as you guys saw, but unfortunately, we started taking an L last game. I am currently like 0 for 5 in meetup game history. Doesn't go very well, so nonetheless, in today's video, later on, we will be announcing the winner of the WSOP package giveaway. For me, this is a huge deal. Not only because obviously you guys are going to be going down to Vegas, but it's cool to have the platform and the ability and just a community to be able to do something like this. If you guys haven't grabbed a hoodie yet, we might be sold out at the point of this video being released. So forgive me if they are, but if they're not, there is a discount code. It is 20% West Coast Fam, all capitals. You can check out the link in the description, closetobroke.la.com, to grab your lovely hoodies as well as your favorite hats. Anyways, today we're playing 510 here at the Hustler Casino. Hopefully it goes a little better than the last time I was here at the Hustler. We lost $500 or $600 in that meetup game. I don't even remember, but I appreciate you guys as always. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go get some hands. Let's play some poker and make some money, hopefully, or at least make some good content. In this session, we start off in a very newly made 510 game here at the Hustler Casino. It is about 7 or 8 p.m. at this time, and I don't know how many games they usually get going, but we are here and we are ready to go. Currently playing six-handed when we look down at King 7 of spades on the button. The small blind decides to make the call, and it gets over to the big blind. Just want to give a big shout out to Jesse, who's in the big blind. He is a great player, and he's also a fun player. You can be great and fun, and I think that I'm learning that on myself. Anyways, Jesse decides to blind raise to $100. That is a blind 3-bet, and that does stand. It's backward to me on the button, and unfortunately, I still haven't even been able to top off here. I only had $1,000 in chips, which is about 100 big blinds effective. I think there's just way too much free money here down in the middle of the pot. So I'm going to go ahead and jam 100 big blinds in the middle, $1,000 with King 7 of spades. I should be way ahead of his blind raising big blind range. The small blind gets out of the way, and Jesse looks down at his hand, 1, 2, but decides to fold. Luckily there, we fade any kind of weird slow roll or clickbacks, but at the end of the day, you can tell that this is gonna be a really fun table. After an hour and a half of not seeing a single hand good enough to play, we finally have a position and an opportunity to voluntarily put some money in the middle. Middle position decides to limp here for $10. I look down at ace jack of diamonds here in the cutoff. Obviously this hand is beautiful enough to make an isolation raise, which I go ahead and do. $55 to go. The button looks down at his hand and he thinks that $55 is far too small of a price. After a little bit of thinking, he decides to make it $210. It's back on to me. I'm super bored. It's been an insanely boring session. And we're sitting at about a $1,500 stack. What do I do? Is he making a move on me? Because we're both trying to make a move on the same middle position player. After a little bit of thinking, I decide to make it $680, leaving myself around $800 left in my stack. A little bit of speech play then occurs. Quite a very long amount of tanking goes on, and I'll leave a little bit of the audio clips here to play over. As you guys can hear, my opponent is definitely in a lot of pain. I wish I played more hands to show I was not in it, but I have had nothing to fucking play.
C4, show me what you got and I'll tell you what you do.
I'm cool with that, yeah. After quite a bit of tanking and asking me if I'd show, he decides to fold ace-king face up. Unfortunate for him, but I'm going to go ahead and take this. As you guys can see, when people notice that you aren't playing hands, they're going to make really big folds, which is unfortunate. Like it goes both ways. Obviously, I want to play hands. I'm here to make money, and you can't when you don't play hands. But anyways, he makes a big fold. Good for us. On to the next hand. The very next hand comes down, and the middle position player decides to limp here. I look down at ace-king offsuit, and obviously we're going to be raising this up here. $55 to go. It folds over to that action middle position player who limped, and he decides to make the call. The flop comes ace, king, 3 with 2 clubs. Very dynamic, very juicy, very favorable board texture, if I could say the very least. After a little bit of thinking, the gentleman decides to check it over to me. We're going to continue to play in flow here, betting our entire range on this board, so I bet $40. In hindsight, I hate this bet. I think because the board texture is so dynamic, I have to be going at 75% pot bet sizing on the flop. But that's not the only error I'll be making in this hand. So, after a little bit of thinking, our opponent decides to make the call. The turn brings a front door flush draw, the 7 of clubs, and after he checks to me, as you can see through the video, his chip stack is in 3 towers, and unfortunately to me, I'm perceiving that he has $300 in his chip stack. That's not the case. I go ahead and jam for $500 because that's what's actually in his chip stack. He pretty quickly decides to make the call. The run out does not come favorable. It is yet another club on the river, and after a quick moment, he shows 9-5 of clubs. I don't really know what the hell was going on there pre-flop. Don't understand anything here, but at the end of the day, our bet on the turn was not the proper sizing, unfortunately, going 2x pot. It's hard to get called by worse. The only thing that I can think of is ace queen with the queen of clubs or ace jack with the jack of clubs, but besides that, it's a pretty bad jam. Obviously, it's a little easier to see that now because I didn't understand his stack sizing. This is why I am an advocate. If you can, please put your chips in a reasonable way to read them. But again, at the end of the day, it is my fault. I should have asked more precisely. Alrighty, folks, we are moving right along here. We're catching up with this hand as it's going along. I could not get my phone out fast enough to record when I looked down at ace king offsuit once again from the small blind. To catch you guys up, the early position player decided to raise to 40, middle position player decided to make the call, and I 3-bet to $200. After a little bit of thinking, the early position player decides to make the fold, and middle position player decides to make the call. The flop is a very juicy one. Ace, jack, deuce with 2 spades out there. There is a flush draw. After a little bit of thinking, I decided to bet $310 here. The middle position player is not folding yet, so he decides to make the call. The turn is one of the most interesting cards in the deck. It comes the 10 of diamonds. There now are 2 flush draws on board, as well as a possible straight. But I am not scared. I did not get here on accident. I got to put the pressure on, and I'm here to make some money. I decide to bet all in, believing that I have my opponent covered for around $1,000. Unfortunately, I did not see, and as you guys can see what I'm seeing from my position, the opponent was covering one of his chips, which was a 1K chip, with his left hand. So he actually has me covered, and I'm all in for $1,600. This is a pretty substantial misclick, and one of the most egregious ones I think I've made to this point. Although it might seem like a $600 difference, it does 100% change the way I would have played the hand. From my intention, I thought I was betting $1,000. In reality, it's changed to $1,600. Either way, I did jam, and it is significantly over the pot. He goes into the tank for a very, very long time and eventually says that he has to gamble, so he makes the call. That sounds like music to my ears. Might be ahead here, actually. The river comes the probably worst card in the deck. It is a 3 of spades. Unfortunately, that flush draw does get there on the river. I do turn over ace king here. My opponent shows his hand ace queen of diamonds. Unfortunately for him, his backdoor flush draw did not get there. And luckily for us, we hold in a massive, massive all-in pot. I think this is by far the largest all-in pot we've played to date on this vlog. Let's go. As the session finally starts to swing in our favor, we are feeling great. We look down at Queen 9 of spades. It limps over a couple ways to me, and I'm on the button, and I'm playing fairly passive, a little more into the table talk than I am into the game, I believe. So I decide to make the call. The big blind makes the check, and we are off to a flop. The flop comes Queen, Jack, 10 with 2 clubs, an insanely wet board texture. The big blind decides to lead out here for $25, and when it gets over to me, I don't think there's any way I can make the fold with our open-ender and top pair, so I go ahead and make the call. The turn comes at 3 of spades, doesn't change a whole lot here, and when the big blind decides to check to me, I think it's time that I play in flow, decide to check it back to realize my equity, and keep the pot fairly small. The river comes a really frustrating card. It comes a jack. It does pair the board, and our opponent decides to lead out here for over the pot, betting $150. This definitely puts us in a terrible, terrible position, but I think having a 9 here is actually kind of beneficial more than being a bad issue. And not only that, we do have ourselves a queen, so at the end of the day, I think I'm just going to have to make the call. The flush draw definitely breaks out, so here are my chips if you want them. Make the call for $150, and our opponent shows 10-9. So he had the same straight draw as we did, except he only had a pair of 10s. Thankfully, we get out of that one. We get out of dodge. Pretty happy to see that this session is slowly going our way. If you made it all the way to this point of the video, I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. This next hand is a ton of fun as well. And I promise you, this episode just keeps on giving. If you would do me the honor, and please make sure to subscribe and click the like button. It goes so far, words can't even describe it. So by chance, I captured this next video with the last dying seconds of my camera. This was supposed to be B-roll for the vlog, but then I looked down at pocket jacks. Early position decides to open a $40. Kristen, friend of the vlog, shout out to you, on our direct right decides to make the call, and I'm going to have to 3-bet this gentleman. I've 3-bet this man 4 times up to this point, so nothing changing here. We're going to go ahead and make it $175 to go. This is the first time he'll be defending against my 3-bet, so he decides to make the call, and Kristen gets out of the way. The flop comes 8-3 deuce with 2 hearts. I can definitely go in between betting and checking back, but I think in position on a very static board texture, only the flush draw out there really, I want to go ahead and check it back and let my opponent either catch up or bluff away at the hand. The turn comes a very, very amazing card to say the very least. It comes a jack of hearts, but that does bring a double flush draw. Now, there are both diamonds and hearts out there. After a little bit of thinking, my opponent decides to bet $200. Again, I'm going to go ahead and play in flow. From what I've seen, this player is a little bit aggressive post-flop, but not a bad player at all. I think he's a pretty decent player to say the least. The river comes a 9 of spades. Pretty much a break here, and he decides to lead out for $225 pretty emphatically, really. So I'm going to go ahead and make a crazy raise to $1,100. No snap call is a great thing, and our friend is in the blender. After quite a bit of tanking and some amazing behind the scene footage after my camera dies from Kristen, our friend talks himself into making a hero call with 3rd pair. He said he just has a pair of 8s. We show the pocket jacks and we are good. Another huge pop for us to wrap up the night in what's been an unbelievable session to say the least.
What's your YouTube channel?
Close to broke.
Huh?
Close to broke.
Close?
You're a little further from broke now.
So after a ton of thinking and a ton of digging, we looked at well over 50 application videos. So 50 of you guys fully followed all the instructions and sent over videos to describe why I should choose you. And after a lot of thinking and trying to figure out where I stand, I initially said one person, but it actually did not stop there. I was touched so much by so many of you that I just felt like one would not be enough, and neither would 2. I'm actually providing the giveaway to 3 individuals. And I will preface this with saying there are a couple of individuals that I did want to get on board, but unfortunately they just couldn't get the vaccination or didn't have it or just chose not to for whatever reason. And I totally respect and understand that. And that's how we ended up with where we're at now, which is our 3 contestants. So without a further ado, I want to introduce the 3 individuals that were lucky enough to win. So shout out to Andre, Hunter, and Eric, 3 lovely young individuals that are hungry and excited. It's just a blessing. Like I said, I'm very lucky. I feel very blessed. And man, I wish there was just better words to describe how excited I am for this. And I've been thinking about how I wanted to approach this, whether I wanted to do a vlog for them, how I would intertwine this with my current content, and I think I figured it out. We're titling the series The Dream. because that's kind of what poker is, especially tournaments, right? The dream is to gain that financial independence that we're all striving for. So I hope, this is the Cinderella story and something amazing happens, and I'm going to do everything I can for that to be the case. I've hired and partnered with professional coaches, and when you guys find out who's on board, you're going to explode. So I'm super excited for the video series to come out. Again, that's a little farther down the line, but I promise you guys, if you didn't win this giveaway, there's a ton more in the future in store. And the content that's going to come out of this is going to be unbelievable. To everyone that sent over a video, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. C2B is literally nothing without the individuals like yourselves that care enough about what I'm putting out to break out of your shells and to send over videos, because I know that's really overwhelming. So I love you guys all from the bottom of my heart. I wish I was at a point in my life where I could help every single person that put out a video. But at the very least, I think I can do 3. So I know I'm doing it. But we were into today's cash game for $2,500. We were out for $6,600, right around there. It was like $6,546 or something like that. But just an unreal session, one of the biggest wins I think to date, and definitely one of the healthiest stacks I've ever had. And I played my biggest all-in pot that I won on the vlog so far. So love you guys all dearly. I'll see you guys on those next episodes. You guys take care, stay healthy, stay happy, stay blessed. And until then, deuces.